To the surprise and shock of absolutely no one, the Elder Scrolls Online is finally dying. Turns out, turning the gods of the universe canonically gay and implementing a whole bunch of queer-driven and whatnot evoke slop type of storylines was not a great idea. Who could have foreseen this? I mean, I certainly could not. I'm pretty sure no one had any idea that this is happening. And you know what was the funny part? I talk about the Elder Scrolls Online time to time, and roughly a year ago, the Elder Scrolls Online was slowly gaining players. Before it obviously all became a giant ish show. But it was actually gaining players, believe it or not. Now, it wasn't like a huge increase or anything like that, but it was undeniably actually getting players. And now, all of that is gone, it's dead, and now the only thing that people talk about when it comes to Elder Scrolls Online is that it's dead, that it's garbage, that it's not fun. And obviously, the big thing that, led to this was, well, first of all, the absolute vokification. There we go. I'm not autistic. Or am I? No. Well, that obviously did not contribute any good points. But the thing that people really forget about, the stupid camera just refuses to do the thing, is the fact that turns out, surprise, surprise, making it so that all the classes can have all the abilities in the game is a remarkably stupid idea. Because that just makes people have less to do. And that just overwhelms the new player experience because they have no idea what to do. Because no one really... This is like the secret thing that I feel that almost all MMOs get wrong. If you overstack the game with things to do, people need to know what is the best. It needs to be easily accessible on YouTube, in-game, or wherever else that they could be looking up information. Because having 100 things to do is cool because of the variety. But the moment there's 100 things to do, people want to do the good thing. People want to do the objectively thing that they're gonna need. That's what most people do. That's just simply how we as humans honestly are. There's nothing strange about that. So, ruining classes, ruining the diversity and narrowing down to like, I don't know, like 5 builds that actually work and not competitive. 5's being generous here, by the way, if you couldn't tell. Is obviously not good for the people who played the game previously who actually enjoyed their classes. I mean, we literally play MMORPGs to experience a class of fantasy most of the time. Or maybe not just me. And needless to say, above that, the new player experience also got ruined because, well, now people know that there's no point in picking a class and they don't know what to do after that. So what the hell are you even supposed to do? It's really bad.
As someone who has spent a lot of time in MMORPGs over the years, nothing pains me more than seeing the totally preventable downfall of the Elder Scrolls Online. I mean, seriously, this game needs to be studied, and more importantly, the team behind it. Now, a full disclosure here, I might not cover it a lot on the channel, but I actually love ESO. I've loved the Elder Scrolls franchise from as long as it came out, for as far back as I can actually...
How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all your favorite things burst into flames?
Remember. In my personal opinion, The Elder Scrolls Online should have been the MMO that absolutely dominated the genre, period, no competition whatsoever. It literally had everything going for it. A legendary franchise, a massive open world to explore, unique combat systems, and a fan base that had been dreaming.
By the way, I was excited for this game, but the moment I saw that your skill bar consists of like 3, 4, however many stupid buttons, plus maybe an ulti and a switch that's equally as bad, I was instantaneously, no, this is never gonna be for me, okay? This is just a bad game. Yeah, it is what it is.
Of something like this for years, dreaming about playing an online version of Oblivion or Skyrim with their friends. On paper, at least to me, this was the chosen one, the fated MMO that everyone was crying out for, and it looked likely that it would rival that of World of Warcraft.
By the way, if you like the video right now, it takes less than 5 seconds, then a second, honestly, and it helps out the channel a lot. You can actually make an impact, and I greatly appreciate it. And if you think that this is important, then definitely like, subscribe right now. It takes less than a second, and thank you for everyone who does. But I actually want to hear, were you around when this game got announced, and you actually heard about it and slightly followed it at least? Am I the only one who saw an action bar of 3 buttons and said like, nope, I am definitely out?
Or Final Fantasy XIV. And for a while, I would like to say there were some golden...
Oh yeah, and actually above that, I saw the gameplay or preview or something like that. It was 5 buttons, and it was like, okay, he clicks the button, and it's like 20-second cooldown. You have 5 buttons. One of them is spam. And the rest are 20-second cooldowns? Oh my god, no, this is garbage. This is not even a game.
Of ESO, it really did kind of hold that particular niche. It really did quite well, but instead of rising to greatness and staying there, something else happened. After many years of being released now, ESO is, I guess it's only fair to say, it's a shadow of what it could have been. This, unfortunately, was a game that was filled with brilliance and optimism, but was really heavily weighed down by obvious mismanagement and, well, misguided priority.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. The rot was there very early on, needless to say.
There are many decisions that have happened over the life cycle of the game which are questionable at best, and I firmly believe this has choked and squandered its potential. In today's video, I really want to take a look, a bit of a deep dive, if you will, into what made ESO so special, and, well, how ZeniMax repeatedly undercut its own success, and if there's any hope for it going forward. This will be the tragic story of an MMO that I personally love that has subsequently been ran into the ground. I do just want to state here, I do enjoy a lot of elements of ESO still, and if you're one of those people that really enjoy the game...
I'm sure he does. Even in the worst games, there are elements of it that you can enjoy. Again, my greatest example of that is New World. Mining in New World is so nice. It's beautiful. But everything else is just bad.
Game still, then just ignore the outside noise, go about it. But I'm here to address the obvious, and the obvious is something that a lot of people are feeling within the space. In my opinion, The Elder Scrolls Online launched with a level of prestige that no other MMO really could have come close to. When people heard the words Elder Scrolls and Online in the same sentence, well, the expectations, as you can imagine, skyrocketed.
Ah, yes, this.
And instantly...
By the way,
now, at the time, you've got to bear in mind...
Okay, so, if you didn't play this game and neither did I, the explanation for this, by the way, is a really good... this is a really, really cool and good trailer. And let me tell you something, because no one knows. These 3, clearly the evil people, are the good guys for some reason.
As you can imagine, skyrocketed and instantly so. Now, at the time, you've got to bear in mind...
This Knight of Valor is clearly the good... No, he's actually the evil dude. Yes. They made one of the best trailers, and no one actually knew who the good guys and who the bad guy is. That's how bad this is, and he absolutely decimates them. And you know what? The story behind this is even worse, because it's Vogue slop. So, this guy's storyline was, oh, we should do this thing, but it's going to result in some slight minor bad things. A couple of deaths here and there, maybe a couple of Khajiits, but who honestly cares at the end of the day? And this would objectively make the world a better place for literally decades. And his plan, the oracles, the gods, and whoever said... Yeah, his plan would have absolutely worked. His plan would have brought the world into an unprecedented age of prosperity. And you needed to stop that because, like, 5 Khajiits were more worth than that, okay? Jesus Christ.
Mind, this wasn't a new IP like something like Guild Wars, for example. You know, when Guild Wars 1 first came out, this was a direct continuation of a universe that people already adored. If we look at Skyrim, for example, it had literally taken over the world. People were fully immersed in the culture of the Elder Scrolls, mainly because of that game. Yes, you
LOL, it was just a bunch of booby mods.
could argue there's Morrowind and Oblivion and many games that came before that, but Skyrim really was the most accessible in the genre thus far. What absolutely blew my mind is the setting of ESO was perfect. Tamriel, you know, it's a place that even if you didn't know it, you would come to love. As a setting, it is incredibly lore rich. It's filled with iconic regions that players could begin to explore and fall in love with and call home. The idea that we could finally visit places like Elsewhere and Somerset Isle, areas that had only ever been mentioned in books, made ESO feel like a dream come true. But the world wasn't the only thing ESO had going for it, far from it. The concept of an action-focused combat system in an MMO at the time was really, really refreshing. You have to remember, at this period of time, we were so used to traditional tab target games, and ESO offered movement-heavy, skill-based, directional combat that felt fast, it felt fluid, and much closer to an ARPG. Now, don't
Yeah, that was the time when everyone collectively decided tab targeting is bad. But no, I don't have any videos from that time. But again, from that time ago, I was like, wait a minute, why is tab targeting bad? Why do we need everything action combat now? Like, why? What? No, tab targeting actually is really good. What do you mean? What do you mean? I never understood this because it came literally out of nowhere. Oh, tab targeting is bad. World of Warcraft, the most selling game of all time at that period, something that normies knew about. Oh yeah, that thing with tab targeting, it's actually bad, boys. Trust me. And then came a whole slew of games that honestly kind of failed just because they didn't have tab targeting. There were games that were pretty good, but they just sucked because they didn't actually have tab targeting. That's crazy.
get me wrong, by today's standards, it still feels slightly off, but at the time, you know, it was fairly new. The point is, it was a system that was implemented at a time where it could definitely have evolved into something with enough work going forwards. And let's not forget about the sheer scope of the game, the sheer size of the game at the time was unmatched. And well, ZeniMax, they had the freedom to explore the entire continent if they wanted to. For example, every race, culture, and region of Tamriel could have become its own expansion, its own story arc, and its own slice of living world building. And, you know, they've explored some elements of that, but really the potential was unlimited. What's even crazier is ESO launched into a market that was begging for something different at this point. World of Warcraft was ultimately declining. Final Fantasy XIV was still rebuilding from its original 1.0 disaster, and players were just hungry for the next best thing. This is why it pains me to say that ESO could have been the MMO of the decade, and I don't say that lightly. It had the backing, the world, the lore, and most importantly, a dedicated fan base. The reality is, it had everything it needed apart from the execution. One thing that I and many players loved about ESO was that at launch, it had a traditional RPG structure. That means that zones had levels, enemies had levels. You progressed from easier regions into more difficult ones. This meant that you felt your character getting stronger because the world changed around you. There were places you simply just weren't ready for that you just couldn't visit yet. And then came One Tamriel, the update that scaled the entire world to your character's level. And well, let's just say that that decision was received in a mixed manner for sure. Outside of the way it was received, one thing was definite. It definitely dismantled one of the most important pillars of an MMO, and that's progression. Suddenly, everything in the world, from wolves to bandits to Daedra, scaled directly to you. It really didn't matter what you were fighting because every fight felt the same. Every fight ended the same. It was just the same stats on a different character model. It didn't matter if you were level 5 or level 50. Every enemy magically adjusted itself so that you could kill it, and it became very easy and very tedious really quickly. I mean, sure enough, it's convenient. It means that every zone in the game can still be quested in at whatever level. You can go wherever you like and nothing is missed. But that does mean that there is a casualty here, and that casualty alongside progression is difficulty. With the one
Yeah, I absolutely hate when games become too easy. Greatest example of that is probably World of Warcraft Dragonflight. At least classic. World of Warcraft Dragonflight classic. I no wait no is no Cataclysm, sorry, Cataclysm. I tried to level in the classic version of that game and it was horrible. I was playing a rogue, sub-rogue, and I could literally two-button kill anything on my level. It was just boring. Because when you can one-shot everything, it becomes just tedious to do things. If you need to kill 10 of X, and you can one-shot them, so suddenly it's not about doing the thing, it's just about, oh my god, how can I make this faster because there's no challenge. The moment there is no challenge to something, it just becomes, how can I do this more efficiently because it's just a waste of time. And, you know, I hate that. Some people are okay with that. I personally hate that. I literally had to swap out to a spec that was worse because pressing 5 buttons was so much enjoyable than just pressing a backstab, no, an ambush into a, I don't know, a sinister strike or whatever it was in Cataclysm. That was it. I hated it so much.
Tamriel update, ZeniMax didn't just give players freedom, they kind of erased the danger. There were no high-level zones, there were no harder regions as such, no sense that you were moving from safe areas to deadly ones. The world just felt flat, or at least it did to me, kind of weightless. It was fun to explore, it was very lore-rich, but it had no stakes. There was no real cause for concern. And because enemies essentially had to be beatable by brand new players, the designers had to make them weak enough for beginners to handle them, which meant they couldn't threaten experienced veterans.
Yeah, it's the classic flaw of, oh my god, everyone's such a stupid mouth breather. They will never be able to do anything unless we make it easy.
From players at all, really. Most vets started mowing down world enemies like they were made of wet, soggy tissue paper, and the overland combat became trivial to the point of boredom. And this doesn't stop just at the overworld content as well. You've got to bear in mind that there are delves, there are instances, world bosses as well that are incredibly casual friendly now, to say the least. I guess what I'm trying to say here is the entire open world lost its identity. That we know for sure. The zones just weren't difficult or dangerous. They were just there waiting to be cleared with zero resistance. Now, again, I have to state, if you are a story fiend and Elder Scrolls enjoyer and combat really isn't your thing, then this really isn't going to bother you. But for most people, especially in an MMO space, this really hurt a lot. One Tamriel definitely brought convenience, but it killed challenge, immersion, and the feeling of becoming stronger. And that loss created ripple effects that still damage the game even today. Even if you were to ignore the design issues, ESO's biggest problem has, in my eyes, always been its performance. And this isn't an opinion that directly just comes from me. This comes from a multitude of different players on different systems. For nearly a decade now, the game has struggled with multiple issues, from skill delays, from desync in PvP, desync in Cyrodiil, frame drops in trials. The list really goes on. Now, of course, it's an MMO. It's not going to run perfectly, but really, given the premium that this game charges alongside all of its monetization, you would really think that this game should just perform a lot better than it.
Oh man, he hasn't actually even gotten to monetization. The monetization is as bad as you can imagine. It's literally just slop. It is please give us money kind of slop, okay? They will sell anything and everything for money.
Does. Now, of course, the devs have tried to address this by implementing performance patch year after year, but the core issues never truly go away. I'm not much of a PvPer myself, but the PvP that I have been involved in, it can sometimes feel like when you press a skill, 1 or 2 seconds later, something actually happens. It's not all the time, but it does happen frequently enough for you to think, this probably shouldn't work like this. At least in my mind, the combat was designed to be fast, reactive, and now it just kind of feels sluggish and unpredictable at times. Now, I've had to do some digging for the Cyrodiil issues, if you like, because it's not something I really involved myself in, but from what I could see, Cyrodiil being the heart of ESO's PvP scene, it really does look like it struggles at times. There are stutters, there's freezes, there's skills not firing off properly, players rubber banding everywhere. Performance alone can drive players away, not just in the hundreds, but in their thousands. We know that an MMO can survive balancing issues. We know that an MMO can survive content droughts. God knows we've played enough MMOs to understand that.
Content drought's sort of a bigger issue. Well, it depends, honestly. Anything can kill an MMO if you're being real. If a balance patch is just too bad, people can leave because their class is useless. If content drought is too big, then people also leave. It depends.
But it cannot fundamentally survive gameplay that isn't smooth and doesn't work. Eventually, people will hang up their hats and say, do you know what? It's not for me anymore. Now, to many, this is a controversial topic, what we're leading into now, because some just aren't really that arsed. They see it for what it is. And to others, it's a subject they just can't look past. And well, that's the combat. ESO's combat originally built itself around class identity. You know, back when Nightblades were like rogues or assassins, Templars were these holy warriors, so on and so forth. You get the drift. Then
Makes
hybridization arrived, a huge change that would allow every class to essentially scale everything off of similar stats. Not to mention the obvious issue with multi-classing, but I feel like that's a story for a completely different video. But the idea was freedom, and the result was homogenization, ultimately. Now we're at a point...
The multi-class thing, I think that's what he's referring to. You can use anything from any class. I don't know exactly the name, but again, if you look at the graphs for Elder Scrolls Online, it goes up, 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 up until that drops, and then there's like a smaller peak because, ooh, new interesting thing happens, then it just drops. And it keeps dropping.
Where if you take the base classes, for an example, it feels like every class can just do everything to an extent. Sure, there might be some better than others.
Yep, the classic World of Warcraft problem. Every class can do everything, and that takes away from the class identity. Not that this game has any class identity at this point, honestly. And it makes everything homogenized. And no one likes homogenized things, okay? It is what it is. It's just the real world. Anyway, that was Deployable Lover. 10 out of 10. Bye.